Welcome to a journey through one of the Bible's most powerful books, the Book of Daniel. In the midst of a world filled with challenges and uncertainties, Daniel's story stands as a beacon of hope, courage, and divine wisdom. As we explore the pages of this ancient text, we will uncover timeless lessons that resonate with our lives today. The Book of Daniel is not just a historical account. It is a profound guide for living with unwavering faith in the face of adversity. Chapter 1. The Courage to Stand Alone. In the opening chapters of Daniel, we find ourselves in a foreign land, surrounded by a culture that is vastly different from our own. Daniel and his companions are taken from their homeland and placed in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. They are faced with the challenge of maintaining their faith and integrity amidst a society that seeks to erode their beliefs. Here lies our first lesson: the courage to stand alone. Daniel and his friends are offered royal privileges, but they refuse to defile themselves with the king's food and wine. They choose instead to honor their God, even at the risk of their own lives. This act of faithfulness is not just about dietary choices. It is about a deeper commitment to one's principles. In our lives, we too are often faced with choices that challenge our values. The Book of Daniel reminds us that true courage is not in blending in with the crowd, but in standing firm on our convictions, even when we stand alone. Chapter 2. The Power of Divine Wisdom. Daniel's story continues with a dramatic turn when the king has a troubling dream that none of his wise men can interpret. It is Daniel, through divine revelation, who not only reveals the dream but also provides its interpretation. This moment is a testament to the power of divine wisdom and insight. Daniel's success is not due to his own understanding, but to his trust in God and his reliance on divine guidance. In our own lives, we often find ourselves in situations where human wisdom falls short. When faced with complex problems and uncertainties, the Book of Daniel teaches us to seek God's wisdom. It reminds us that there is a higher knowledge available to us if we are willing to listen and trust in the divine. The wisdom that comes from above is not just about solving problems, but about seeing the world through God's eyes. Chapter 3. The Furnace of Faith. Probably one of the most dramatic, awe-inspiring accounts in the Book of Daniel is that of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These three young men are commanded to worship the golden image, but they will not do so, even when the threat against them is that they will be thrown into a fiery furnace. Their faith is not some kind of balancing act between mere belief and passive trust. It is active, lively trust in God, one that resists even the most rigorous trials. When they are thrown into the furnace, the flames do not consume them. Instead, there is a figure, a fourth one, that resembles a son of God. This miraculous deliverance does not come just to witness their faith. It also stands as a very powerful attestation that God is with us in our trials. In these moments of utmost pressure and suffering, let the Book of Daniel charge us to hold fast to our faith, to know that God is walking with us through the very fire, and we will come out stronger, more refined in Him. Chapter 4. The Fall of Pride. This is the story of King Nebuchadnezzar, teaching such a strong lesson concerning pride and arrogance. Though warned by Daniel of what his pride would do to him, he elevated himself above all, only to be humbled. His story goes to show the principle: pride goes before a fall, very clearly. The chapter teaches us a really important lesson about humility, that everything we have and everything that is within us comes from God. In this world of self-promotion and ego, Daniel's account echoes the biblical truth that real greatness does not come from exalting oneself. It actually comes from recognizing our dependence on God and serving others with a humble heart. Chapter 5. The Writing on the Wall. The dramatic episode of the mysterious writing on the wall at King Belshazzar's feast, the inevitability of divine justice. The message, mean, tekel, upharsin, literally means that Belshazzar's reign has been weighed and found wanting. Thus, it serves as the most sober warning that God's justice is certain and no respecter of persons. The Book of Daniel encourages personal and professional integrity and righteousness in the face of sometimes hostile governance to believers. Writing on the wall serves as a reminder that actions have consequences and that our final judgment is according to a higher standard. He calls everyone to re-examine life and make sure it is going to be one that will please and glorify God as reflective of His justice. Chapter 6. The Lion's Den. Faith Under Pressure. One of the climaxes in the story of Daniel comes in his deliverance from the lion's den. This all happened because Daniel's rivals were plotting against him to destroy his influence by using his faithfulness to God against him. In spite of the decree against prayer to any but the king, Daniel prayed 3 times a day, as was his custom. When they throw him into the lion's den, Daniel does not get hurt, making it vividly clear how God protected him and gave a glimpse of the mighty power of steady faith. The story here is not that of miraculous deliverance, but of the strength to stand amidst the cruelest forms of persecution for what one believes in. Though we are not to be faced with real lions in our lives, we do often have to meet the figurative ones, the adversities, criticisms, and tests which undermine faith. The lesson that comes from the example of Daniel is this: true faith does not show us how to avoid difficulties, but to trust God amidst them. It calls men and women to be steadfast and know that God is with them in their darkest hours and will deliver them according to His will. Chapter 7. The Vision of the 4 Beasts. Understanding Prophetic Insight. In this chapter, we will analyze one of the most mysterious and deepest visions in the book of Daniel, the vision of 4 beasts. Each beast typifies the rise and fall of a kingdom, showing how transitory a human empire might be, while God is sovereign forever. This vision thus conveys that despite all the turmoil and disorder of events on earth, there is something beyond human understanding in the form of divine order and purpose. It reminds that God's plan is to encompass all of history, and His kingdom shall be eternal. But the vision of the 4 beasts gives hope to us in our confusing, ever-shifting experience in life. It reassures that even in uncontrolled situations, God's sovereignty remains unshakable. Chapter 8. The Ram and the Goat. Interpreting Symbolic Prophecy. In Chapter 8, Daniel had another vision, which this time involved a ram and a goat. The ram refers to the empire of Medo-Persians, and the goat is interpreted as Greece with the outstanding horn symbolizing Alexander the Great. As such, this vision unravels how the empires would turn out to be in the future and how they would impact the world. This symbolic prophecy of Daniel gives us a view on the importance of understanding the times and seasons in which we live and teaches how to know the signs and patterns of our age, seeing how they fit into the bigger picture of God's plan. So, an understanding of these prophecies gives wisdom and perspective, guiding us in how to approach our own challenges and contribute to the fulfillment of God's purposes in our time. Chapter 9. The 70 Weeks. Awaiting Divine Timing. Chapter 9 introduces the 70 Weeks prophecy, a period of time detailing some important events leading to the coming of the Anointed One and the final consummation of God's kingdom. In this sense, it becomes important for explaining divine timing and the unfolding of salvation history. The patience exhibited here teaches us to wait upon God's timing. So often, we are desperate for answers and resolutions, but the prophecy of the 70 weeks reminds us that God's plan is meticulously timed and executed. It encourages us to trust in His timing and remain steadfast in our faith that He is working all things together for our good and for His glory. Chapter 10. The Vision of the Man. Strengthening Our Resolve. The vision which Daniel received in Chapter 10 was that of a man whose appearance was resplendent in attire, and the words were in commands, full of awe and fear. It was succeeded by a message pertaining to spiritual warfare and challenges that came upon God's people. This chapter speaks to the reality of spiritual warfare and gaining spiritual strength. It is a call to rest on God's power, and at the same time to be awake and ever vigilant about unseen forces at work against us. As Daniel was strengthened by the vision and message that came, so are we to find our strength in God and our stand against Satan, courageous and persevering. Chapter 11. The Kings of the North and South. Maneuvering Through Turbulence. Chapter 11 comprises a detailed prophecy of wars between the kings of the North and the South, in which various historical figures and empires are recognized. This complicated prophecy gives perspective on the multifaceted struggles and political dynamics that mold today's world. The minute details of this prophecy instruct us about the intricacies of the historical and personal challenges. It reminds us that, Though we may not know everything at any one time, we can have confidence in God, knowing He is familiar with every detail and sovereign over all. Our complex challenges encourage us to seek God for guidance and remain faithful as we navigate through, knowing He has predestined every bend. Chapter 12. The Time of the End, Hope and Assurance in the Final Victory. The final chapter of Daniel provides the vision of the end times, promising resurrection and the final victory of God's people. Concluding with hope and assurance through storms and struggles is future glory awaiting the faithful. This final chapter gives a powerful conclusion to the visions and prophecies of Daniel. It lets us know that our struggles are not in vain, but gives assurance of promised rewards to those who overcome. Thus, keeping our eyes on ultimate victory, we shall live in hope and assurance that God will bring everything to pass. The legacy of Daniel reminds us of deep lessons that it has for us if we reflect on the entire book of Daniel. Here, from courage in the face of adversity to divine wisdom, humility, and assurance of God's eternal kingdom, Daniel's life and prophecies encourage us toward purposeful living in faith. What Daniel left behind is an example to us all to answer our callings with equal zeal and steadfastness. It teaches us that we should believe in the plan, seek wisdom from God, and stand for what we know is right with full conviction. May we go out into the world, live out life's lessons learned from Daniel, with a heart full of hope, empowered by a divine strength and spirit. Thank you, and may the lessons of the book of Daniel go on to inspire and guide you along your journey of faith. If you enjoyed this video and found it meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Soul Scriptures for more inspiring content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of our latest videos, where we delve into the wisdom of the Scriptures and explore the profound messages they hold for our lives.